I want to show you what he had to say on the situation in Gaza. We all watched horrified on Saturday as 3 more hostages were released, looking absolutely sickly. They look like skeletons, to be honest, having spent 15 months in captivity in tunnels in Gaza. And then, of course, before they made it back to their families, they were paraded by their captors. They were given gift bags and certificates, and the whole thing was absolutely horrendous. And Donald Trump had this to say on what should happen here on in. Have a listen.
If all of the hostages aren't returned by Saturday at 12 o'clock, I think it's an appropriate time. I would say cancel it and all bets are off and let hell break out. I'd say they ought to be returned by 12 o'clock on Saturday, and if they're not returned, all of them, not in drips and drabs, not 2 and 1 and 3 and 4 and 2. Saturday at 12 o'clock, and after that, I would say all hell is going to break out.
Now, of course, it's a decision for Israel whether they are going to maintain the agreement or whether they're just going to say, we agree, give us all 73 remaining hostages back this Saturday, or all bets are off. But finally, someone says it. This should never have been allowed to get to a stage where we've got hostages being released in dribs and drabs, paraded in some sort of sick pantomime. Of the 73 hostages still being held, 34 are confirmed dead. So Hamas are holding corpses as hostage and as leverage. This should have been dealt with on October the 8th, the day after. The entire world should have said, release them or there will be hell to pay. It's dragged out for 15 months. Trump's finally said enough, which I think most sensible people would agree.
It was only really by Trump saying there would be hell to pay if there wasn't an agreement that we even got to this place in the first place, right? And Hamas has been taking the piss with the release of these hostages in the form that they've been coming in. Oh, gift certificate. I mean, please, as if they're leaving there thanking their captors for the time they've spent there. That is an absolute joke. And what triggered all of this was Hamas accusing Israel of breaking the terms of the ceasefire. So they said, well, we're not going to release the hostages that are due to be released this weekend. Israel has then said, well, we have to consider our options and what we can possibly do. In comes Trump and says, well, if you don't release them by this weekend, there'll be hell to pay. And believe it or not, a few hours after that, Hamas came back out and said, oh, well, actually, our threat not to release the hostages, quote unquote, serves as a warning to Israel that we want them to adhere to the terms of the ceasefire. So all of this really is various countries testing each other to see exactly how far they will go. And the ultimate outcome of that is that Hamas has a lot more to lose than Israel does when it comes to the breaking of this ceasefire. So I suspect it will all continue on as it has, because the last thing they really want is to provoke Israel to the point that they do actually go back in there and go hammer and tongs, because there will be no Gaza at all left after that, and that's the worst thing that could happen for Hamas.
Well, there's no Gaza left now, but it is a lot of huff and puff. Trump is playing his part, simply saying, hey, we're in this boots and all, so you guys... He did this prior to his inauguration. You guys would remember, like, if you guys don't get your fill in the blank sorted by January 20, by God, you're going to be sorry. So last time we saw some motion on this when he put his foot down. Let's see what happens now before Saturday, 12 p.m.